We got lazy old Clayton sitting there on the log loader we're gonna work on. Damn it, Clayton.
Did you see?
Well, got an upper engine, two engines in these log loaders. One on the house is a 3208 and the lower engine's a 3208 as well. And this one here, the lower engine, as soon as you start it, it's shoving the water out of it. So I was trying to figure out what was the problem so I could pull the right one. I did see a little bit of evidence on the exhaust manifold down on the bottom to where there was a little bit of white crystallized stuff. I'd like to run it, but it's been sitting here all winter, and this happened last fall, and I didn't do anything with it because it was outside. You don't just drive these to the shop. I was going to pull the head for it, but I said, I'll just wait till springtime, and that's what we're doing now. But anyway, they pulled the batteries out of it, so I don't know. I think they pulled the batteries out, unless, you never know, they might have been stolen. But I don't know. I was going to pull this valve cover off over here. This is the manifold I looked at that looked like it was, this ain't going to be no fun at all right here. I mean, what a hard to get to son of a gun. We'll pull this intake pipe off right here. What's it holding down there? Just a screwdriver there. That should pop out of there. Okay. Alright, here we go. We'll pull this valve cover off, and maybe I can see if I can pull an injector out, maybe. I don't know. I was wondering if I could pull an injector out and then find a compression tester. I don't know. Or you pull both valve covers off and see if there's a bunch. There's water and oil. Oh yeah, quite a bit of. Yeah, look at that. Alright. And believe it or not, some people bellyache about what an old pile of junk this is, but you know what? They had that old 528 skidder. I had that in a video, one of the videos. They sold that for pretty good money, and it went to Africa. No shit. And this is probably going to wind up overseas too. There's some guys that are paying pretty good money for this older stuff over there. For one thing, there's no regulations over there. And they don't have to have all the emissions garbage on them. And they're all mechanical, and they can fix it out in the bush. You don't have to go have somebody come out there with their laptop to hook up to the piece of shit to get it running again. So they're kind of a pretty good demand for them. Oh, come on. Fight me every step of the way. Good Lord. That son of a bitch has been on there since the last clipper. Holy shit. That intake hose coming from the compressor is on there now. There it goes. Holy shit. Get the cordless ratchet in either a 1/2 inch socket. Wait a second. You know what? You know what? Never mind. Never mind with that. We could just take this one hose clamp loose right over here. That's what we'll do. I'm thinking it's going to be this head. But you don't see clamps like that anymore. Look at that. I haven't seen one like that in years. That cantilever style. Yeah, you don't see those anymore. That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool clamp. Don't take much to impress me. Now we're gonna be hitting that brace though, and I can't pull up on it. Well, the way we're gonna have to do it is gonna have to take this one loose too. I wanted to leave this on here so when we figure out which head is leaking and get the head off of it, we could close the lid on it and keep the weather out of it. That's what my idea was. Why are you doing this? There we go. Now, actually, we'll just twist that over. There, like that. And then get the 1/4" drive ratchet and a 5/16 socket so I can get this other clamp off here. Just get that whole 1/4" drive SAE set out. Got air throttle on it. See that, Clayton? That's an air throttle.
It said metric, and I went, yeah, that's right.
SAE. God. Alright, let me get down in here. Lay on my belly. It isn't much fun. Actually, let's go like that. I'm just gonna get the valve cover off. It's out of our way. Alright, I need the air hose. Watch your eyes, Clayton. Those look like 3/8 to me. That's exactly what they are. Alright.
No, we're done. Look them up.
The hell's that? Manual heat gauge, that's what that is. Find somewhere to put this damn camera, maybe. Put it over here somewhere, maybe. I don't know. I don't know yet. The last log loader, like that Barco I worked on, but everything was easier just to pull the damn engine out of it. Huh? What's that? Damn, is that? I guess there's not one right up there. I thought there'd be one up there. But... Alright, there you go. And that'll probably require the use of a hammer or a bar or something. Yeah, we're gonna need a pecker to get that off, or a bar or something. She's probably got an old cork gasket and it's probably glued down for, been on there for 30 years. 3208, remanufactured. Oh, it's a reman motor too. Wow. So they already blew it up once, which is no surprise for a 3208. It's actually got a rubber gasket on it. Man, that don't look that bad. I was expecting to see a lot more milky looking crap up in there. Loosen all them injection lines over there and then get the ones on the pump. You got to be careful with them ones on the pump. One of you that's over there, do it. And I think we can pull all these off as an assembly, I think. Well, these will come off right here, right now. Don't you round that off or I'll kick you right in the prick. Little keepers here. That's some nice stuff. Yeah, I don't really know how you get that intake bolt out right there. I mean, unless that hole's slotted. I wonder if it's slotted like these are and you just loosen that bolt up and slide it out. Yeah. I wonder. Did you get that one loose, Clayton?
You got the wrench, don't you?
Where's that where's the cordless ratchet? You can get those right there with that. But you'll need the end wrench for that one. I'm gonna try to loosen this one down here. Loosen up maybe. Yeah, that ain't very much fun to get on that one. What are you doing with all the bolts, Clayton?
There's two over there on that side, and then
Let's keep them all in one spot. Here. Here, Clayton. Well, he's gonna
There's
be in,
one right
he's
there,
gonna
too.
be in the way. But get that one out of there. That's the only way. Well, did I ever get this one down here out? No. There's one down here too. Gotta get out. I think that one will come clear out once you do get it. It's going to be a long process, but I think it'll come clear out. Blake, where's that 3/4? Still got something over here. Hold it somewhere. There we go. Blake, go get the cap kit. Cap these cap these coming off this injection pump. I mean, it's a filthy mess anyway. Save as much as we can, I guess. Here, let me see that wrench. Get this one down here. There's that flat. I got a rock stuck in there where I can't get the box end on it. There we go. And it's, I do get a 9/16 gear wrench, but it wouldn't work on there because the box end of the gear wrench wouldn't fit between there and the intake on the bolt. See if that intake will kind of pop loose. Alright. Look at that. Grab that air swivel bracket and move it a little bit, Clayton. Alright, so we'll go back into this cat motor here. Rockers off. Ow, my finger. Actually, I could have left that one there on it. Oh yeah, that's right. Those are just a kind of a cap. That's all they are. All right, Blake. We're gonna have to lay these on the bumper of the truck. Okay, grab them there rocker shafts. I'll start pulling push rods out of this son of a gun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I was gonna get that compressor off so we could get that bolt out. That's what I was gonna do. Here, young lad, take them there push rods. Okay, there's the injectors. These actually usually come out pretty easy. The injectors do on them. Well, I need to get the compressor loose, where I can get this one head bolt out here. Yep. that's all part of that. I think it must be part of that cover, huh? I think it's all part of this whole assembly here on the front end. It's all one piece. Looks like to me. And there's, and that looks like it's got to all come off of there because they go right into the front of the cylinder heads. Looks like you got to strip pretty much everything off the front end to get the heads off of it. I don't really understand the whole bolts down through here type deal. I mean, what was that for? I mean, if it doesn't come off, then why would you put bolts there? Maybe it does come off. Yes, it does come off. It does. It comes off of there. Okay. Alright, now I can see down in there with that damn compressor out of my way. The keeper here, a little retainer that goes around the water. There it goes. I knew there was one on there somewhere. Couldn't see it. Covered in grease. Alright. Ooh, ooh. Okay, so now the son of a bitch oughta. Which way will it slide? Will it slide that way or that way? I don't remember. Oh shit, those things are in there. Oh, I can't get a bite on it. Gee whiz. Whew. Okay. There, maybe we can get the goddamn injectors popped out of it now. Those probably could tear them up trying to get them out. Watch your arm, I gotta pop it with my hand. Back here, this old log loader. I was standing up there, and the old guy that owns the ground here, he pulled up there, and known that guy probably 30 years, and good old guy. And I've done stuff like this before. I get to bullshitting with somebody and not thinking and jumping to pick up and take off or run over something. Well, he pulled up and he nosed up against this brush rake that used to be on the front of that. Oh, I think we pulled this off a D7, and or was it the 6? Anyway, he pulled up here and nosed up to it, and he got up there BSing with me and just forgot about it and just pulled ahead and pulled right over on top of it, and the right side tires rocked it up, and this was hung up underneath the pickup, and that's a newer, Power Stroke pickup, and he was gonna start backing up, and I heard him back up a little bit and start spinning his tires, and I hollered at him to stop, and I ran over there and I said, man, you got it wedged right up against your transfer case. You're gonna tear the hell out of something if you keep going. So I went down the hill with my crane and just took the big strap up to the receiver hitch on his. He had a flatbed on it, and I just hooked up to it and just picked the whole thing up about this high off the ground and swung him over here, and then let him drive off. And golly. Well, guys, I'm finally back to this log loader. As you can tell, the earlier clips you see from before this clip here were all from a couple weeks ago. I started working on this thing, and every time we'd start working on it, it'd be kind of nice for part of the day. Then, in the morning, and then like by 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, here comes the clouds, and it'd start raining or trying to snow. So anyways, we got good weather, and finally came back out here to finish getting the heads off of it. Yeah, it was kind of kind of a little bit exciting. I didn't even really get started when he backed up and backed over that brush rake for that cat, and then I had to kind of put things up, but that's okay. He's a good guy. I don't mind helping him out. I finally figured out what the sound issue was on this GoPro 8 camera, and it wasn't on. It was after basically when I got home to make this video. I wanted to listen, I was editing and I could see the sound. That's why I'm actually doing a voiceover right now, because the sound's all screwed up still. And what it is this new GoPro 8 camera has a voice command activation on it. Well, somehow that got pushed on there, and that's why the audio's all screwed up, because I made a bunch of test clips or test videos messing around with this thing after I turned that off, and now it's fine. And as soon as you turn it back on, you can make another video, and the sound's all screwed up. So they've got a problem there. I even updated it too. I actually updated it today as I was actually making this video, pulling these heads off. So the update obviously didn't fix anything. But anyways, if you got a GoPro 8 camera, turn that voice command stuff off, or your sound, your audio will not work correctly. But anyway, we're coming back to finish these heads. I've been just busy. I've actually got I didn't video it. I might video the reassembly on it. I got a customer that bought a Kubota S20, what is that, an S205? Or not a Kubota S205, a Bobcat S205 with a Kubota V2403 in it. And it was smoking, and he had Bobcat, I guess, come out, and they did a compression check and everything. They already did it for me and gave him the paperwork on it. Said the engine was low compression. So he didn't tell me what cylinder. They told me it was low compression, but so I asked him. I said, well, for sure that's what it is. He said, yeah, it is the engine. They found metal in the oil or something too, is what they told him. But anyway, I pulled the engine out of it, and that's only the second Bobcat I've ever pulled an engine on. And I made a video on the first one, and that was my first one. Of course, I got a lot of feedback on that one, how I was doing it wrong, and that's okay. And I did do this one a little better. I pulled the pumps and the Kubota engine all as one assembly. The other Bobcat had a Deutz in it. And to be honest with you, this Kubota one was way easier. Things were just easier to get to than the Deutz. Seemed like there just wasn't any room to get back in there. But anyways, I pulled the hydrostatic pumps and the engine all as an assembly, and I bet I had that thing out of there in probably 2.5, 3 hours by myself. I mean, I thought I did all right. Some guy got on the Bobcat video a while back and told me how he could do it in an hour and a half by himself, and that's fine. He probably does them every day. I'm sure I could fine tune my strategy as far as pulling it out and probably narrow down my time. Every time you do something, usually you get a little bit better at it. But anyway, we were busy on that yesterday. We pulled that engine out, and I actually craned the engine and the hydrostatic pumps, because my shop in town at my house is my little shop in Klamath by my house. I've got the JCB 214 Series 3 backhoe in there, and I got the Dodge pickup too, and we got the block back for it. But of course, it's JCB. We're waiting on parts. What else do you do for JCB besides wait on parts? I actually pulled the front two bucket cylinders for the front boom, that raises the boom up for the bucket, and repacked both of those. I got those done. What else did I do? Oh, they wanted me to pull the fuel tank. They said that they kept plugging up fuel filters, so pulled the fuel tank, and their mechanic come over and grabbed it and took it over to an outfit like a radiator shop. He said he could clean it out, and they cleaned it all out. And then I
Pulled the front axle off from underneath it and ordered the huge pivot pin was worn really bad because the bushings got bad. It actually didn't hurt the trunnion in there and the front axle, but so I ordered the pin and the bushings for it. So the front axle's laying on the ground now, and we're waiting on the transmission parts, and eventually we'll get that in. So back to the Bobcat. So anyways, my shop, there's no room for it here to put any parts in the shop, so I just craned the hydrostatic pump and the engine and took it down to my big bench in McDowell, California, and completely stripped the engine down to a bare block. It was number 2 injector was over fueling, and it carboned up the piston really bad, and it scored up the cylinder wall and the piston really bad on number 2 on that Kubota engine, and so I got the head stripped on it and everything too. I got the head in the back of the service truck and the block. We're gonna send that to the machine shop and scored that hole up fairly good. So we're probably gonna wind up just putting Kubota on those V2403s. You can just go, what is it, 5mm? Is it 5mm oversized on the liners, and that's it. If you ever got to go oversized again, you got to either sleeve them or throw it away, with the same size. Well, anyways, that's the only oversize they offer on those is 5mm, as far as I know. But that's what's been going on. Just been busy. Guys, another thing I want to talk about was the New Holland T7040. Remember the other day that this thing had lost battery power, and it basically, for some reason, wiped out all the calibrations in the they call it the RD controller, which has the hitch calibrations in it, the power shift calibrations in it, and steering angle calibrations, and the rear PTO. Anything that has a calibration, it wiped it out. I have had problems in the past with like the Pumas and not the MXMs. The T7030, I've had problems with it too, that another customer has. If the batteries go dead enough, I don't think they've ever let these get drained down as far as this one did. I've had the EPLs, which is electronic park locks. I've had the guys call me and they couldn't move the tractor because it wouldn't come out of park. And on those, I've had to go over there and reinitialize the park lock on it, which is basically real simple. Those have a neutral button on the shuttle shifter. And these are a little bit newer tractor than this one is, this T7040. And this tractor here actually doesn't have an EPL on it, which is electronic park lock. It's just got a park brake you pull up with your hand. On those tractors, they'll lose their calibration for the EPL or whatever, and you got to reinitialize them. So you got to hold in the neutral button and simultaneously push both brake pedals down. That'll reinitialize the park lock and take it out of park. And then basically you're just going to cycle it back to park and in and out, and it'll basically kind of calibrate itself. So anyways, on this one here, it lost all its calibrations. The other day you saw me calibrate the power shift. That all went smooth. There was no problems there, but I didn't know what pins to jump, and I just didn't. If I don't know, I don't like to start jumping wires, and I don't want to screw something up. So anyways, thanks to a couple of the viewers on here, they knew exactly what to do, and I listened. I read the comments, guys. I do. I read your comments. So I did. I jumped pins B and G, and I actually also ordered the cable just for a backup. My Texas dealer already got it, but it came after I already jumped the pins. So I jumped pins B and G on the diagnostic receptacle on the corner post of the cab behind your right shoulder, and that'll take you into the HH menus. And you can also do the quick call it method on the hitch too, on the hitch and the transmission. I don't remember the transmission one. I remember it's similar to the hitch one, but I think you hold the automatic button down. There's a rocker switch on the right hand console. You hold it down, hold your foot on the clutch, start the tractor, and hold that button down while it starts, and that'll take it into cal mode. And on the hitch, you hold the quick raise button in the down position on the hitch, and while you're starting the tractor, and that'll take you into calibration mode as well. And the cal will pop up in the center part of the display on your instrument cluster. And then so what you're supposed to do there is you're supposed to, well, let's get into what I did. So anyways, I had calibrated the transmission the other day, and that went fine. So I went in, I had to calibrate the rear PTO. So I went into the HH menus. You can't do a quick call up for the PTO. You have to go into the HH menus, and you go into H1. H1 is all the calibrations. So once you select H1, then you can get into, you'll just scroll through and it'll have the insignias there. It'll show the little hitch. It'll show the like a little gear for transmission, and then the PTO oddly enough is an engine sign. Looks like an engine hour meter. So I selected that one, calibrated it, and as soon as I got done calibrating it, I shut the tractor off. You're supposed to shut it off. That saves all the parameters for it, and then you start the tractor back up. Started the tractor back up, and I kept getting this open circuit code for the this tractor has a fender switch on the left rear fender to turn the PTO on off, standing out where you can turn the PTO on and off from standing outside the tractor. Well, I kept throwing an open circuit code. I called the owner and I told him, I said, did this thing ever do that before? He goes, no, it never has. And he said, well, that's odd. We didn't do anything back there, and you didn't either. And I said, no, I didn't. I said, he's only had the tractor for 2 or 3 years. He bought it used. So, this is the tractor we changed the engine out at 1900 hours. You wonder what else these guys were trying to hide. Okay, so the only way I could get that code to go away without fixing the problem with the wiring going to the switch, either has a bad switch or more than likely it's got an open circuit in the wiring going to it, as I unconfigured it. Once I unconfigured it in the H3 menu, go to H3 and then you can configure whether that thing has a fender switch or not. I just basically told the RD controller that it didn't have it. I chose no. And I cycled it, saved it to memory, started the tractor back up, and I never got that code again. And the owner said that's fine. I don't ever use that switch. Anyways, got back in there to calibrate the hitch, okay? Went into hitch calibration. There's where we ran into problems. So I got in, you can do the quick call up measures on that and hold the down button. It'll go to cal, or you go to the H1 and go to the hitch insignia and the HH menus and cal there as well. So went into calibration mode, and what you're supposed to do is take all of your levers, say your height limit, your rate of drop, all those knobs, and turn those fully clockwise, okay? Depth control setting, turn it all fully clockwise, okay? And then if you've got a master switch for hydraulics, for like transporting, to where it'll actually shut everything off back there to lock it so the hitch doesn't drop and you drop a ripper in the middle of the highway or something, or you inadvertently bump a remote lever with your arm while you're pulling a plow down a paved road and plow half the road up. So this tractor doesn't even have one, so I didn't have to worry about it. But if you do that, turn it on so your hitch works. So I went into that. You're supposed to take the draft lever and move it from 70 to 90%, and it's supposed to, that center display where it says cal, it's supposed to go to 0. Well, what it does, the 0 it signifies that it's going to raise that hitch up and down 3 times real slowly. You can barely see it move, and it's not moving it very far. Okay, it's kind of like a Challenger hitch calibration if you guys have ever done one. So anyway, it never would go to 0. Okay, so what the 0 signifies, it's starting out at 0, then it's going to move it to 3. 3 is the 3rd time it cycles the hitch up and down for calibration. Well, I never could get it to do anything. It never would move at all. So finally, I took the caps off. I saw that it was actually commanding it in the parameters, and I saw the green light on the hitch display on the right-hand console going up and down. It was commanding it. I actually checked voltage while it was commanding it. I back probed the raised solenoid plug and the lower solenoid, and it was commanding them. I said, man, I'm not getting any hydraulic. I've got either a cartridge valve stuck or something going on in the valve block. So I pulled the end cap off of the I pulled the end cap off of the raised solenoid, and I was going to pull the raised solenoid off the cartridge valve and pull the cartridge valve out. Before I did that, I actually undid the plastic cap that holds that on there, and I saw a button on the end of that cartridge valve underneath that plastic cap, and I said, holy cow, that's a manual override. So I pushed the manual override on the raised solenoid, but it still didn't do anything. And I pulled off the same one on the lower solenoid, and there was an override there too. And of course I pushed it, didn't do anything, it was already down. So I was thinking maybe the lower valve was stuck open and all the oil was just going back to lower all the time, but it wasn't. So what I wound up doing is I ended up go over to the service truck. I took a little ball peen hammer, and right the gap on the end of the spool there where the cap was, I held the raised solenoid manual override in, and I tapped on the cartridge valve, and lo and behold, the hitch started raising. Oh, something else I wanted to tell you on this. Okay, something else you can do to check and see if the electronic parts of it, you can phase these hitches, okay? So you got a potentiometer in the cab. The potentiometer is what the position is. Okay, and you got a potentiometer outside of the cab, which is the hitch position itself. The draft lever in the cab is actually a potentiometer as well. What I mean by phasing them, you want to actually get the say if the hitch is stuck up and you've got the lever down, you want to match. It's easy to match it then, right? Because you can just raise the lever in the cab to match the hitch that's already up. But when the hitch is down and the hitch won't raise up, it's pretty hard well, I was phasing it, but it wasn't coming into phase. So what we did is we took the hitch position sensor off outside, and I raised it up while I was in cal mode, and I had Blake take the hitch position sensor and move it by hand. And then it came out of cal and it went to 0. And then you could see the little green insignia, the little light on the hitch thing there on the cab. You could see it was commanding it up, but the hitch still wasn't moving. So that's another thing you can do to see if your electronic side, and you can phase your potentiometers, phase your hitch lever in your cab with your position sensor on the hitch to see if all that stuff's working. And so that's kind of another way you can check to see if all that's working. So anyway, long story short, well, it's a long story at all, but anyway, I got it finally. I went back in there, I raised it up, I put the caps back on the raised and lower solenoids, I got back in the cab, and I just went back into calibration mode, and it called it. Started out at 0, and you could see it barely moving, then it went to 1, and it barely moved, and so on and so forth. It went to 3, and then it'll say end, and then I shut the tractor off at end, and I started it back up after a couple of minutes, and then I raised the hitch back and up. No more codes, and I actually had to go in and calibrate the steering angle switch on the right front steer tire too, so it lost calibration for that as well. But you gotta love all these newer tractors with all this electronics on it and all the stuff that happens to them. It can become a long drawn out process.
See right here across the fire ring. See how you got right here on the fire ring, it's nice and shiny. Right here it's dark. And you can see down in here where the water goes to the head, now it's hard to tell what's carboned up when your fingers are already dirty, but you can also look at see the rust on this one. See how clean the other, these are kind of carboned up. See the rust on this one. Another way you can tell is look down in here. See where the carbon is all right there, across that. See how the other one does not look like that. Now it's nice and clean right there in the middle where that gasket would have sat. So this is our problem child. This went to hell on us. Yeah, and you can really tell now. Yeah, look on this other side here. The head gasket. See how these look here? Let's get a rag maybe. Thought I had one right here. Let's climb off of this thing and get one. We'll clean that up and I'll show you. Oh. See how it's, see right here where the water would have, well, no water on that end, it's blanked off. But you can definitely tell right here, the whole section here was leaking, and it's burnt the gasket here, and that's the way it should look right here. Like that. And then that fire ring should be nice and shiny where it was seating up. So, alright, well, I got to get the water necks out of there and get new O-rings for them. I got a bunch of cleanup here to do on the block. I'm just going to go ahead and clean it up right now while I'm here and get it all ready to go for, I'm going to throw the heads in the back of the truck. I'm going to straight edge them and everything, make sure everything's squared away on the heads. And get some head gasket kits ordered for it, and hopefully here next week we'll put her back together. But these water necks can be a real pain in the butt to get out of there. These little necks here. So, gotta get them pried out of there.